Happy New Year. I hope the new year finds you well. I think people are just over it.
Over the new year already?
They're just like high, sea, below. Like nothing. No salutation.
Happy New Year.
They're like, New Year, same grumpy me.
Joe, how's your year starting? Happy New Year, Joe.
It's good, see below.
By the way, this is being recorded on
See
January
attached.
22nd, so
Yeah, this
3
is
weeks after
definitely
the new year.
not a new year. We should be talking about Valentine's Day at this point.
Should we this year? We've been planning on doing this every year. We never do it. But book out a ton of reservations for Valentine's Day. And then the week before or the day before, give them out to our clients. Just be like, hey, if you forgot to make a reservation, we've got one booked for you already.
The thing is, if I did that on Open Table, I get a ton of
You get
points. But then if no one
You get
shows
charged.
up, I'll get like blocked from the app because
They
I had
probably
too
would
many
block you.
no-shows.
I don't think you're allowed to book more than one reservation on Open Table at a
Yeah.
time. You'd have to call the restaurant directly. They charge your card. How's your year starting out, Joe?
It's been a whirlwind already. Honestly, I don't know what happened to people when the clock changed from like December to January, but had some sort of effect on a lot of my buyers. And
New year,
they
new
are
buyers.
ready.
They are.
I'm like, did you get new shoes for Christmas? Because you're ready to run to that showing.
I think if we
Love the new sneaks.
I think if we look back at 2023, 2023 was the worst year in real estate history for the last 30 years at least. And when I say the worst year, I mean the number of home sales across the nation, including the 08-09 crash. We had the least amount of home sales last year. So it impacted the people in the industry. A lot of homeowners are happy because a lot of equity increased. Or a lot of homeowners' equity went up quite a bit in 2023, but that goes to show the interest rates affected so much. 2022, we saw a doubling of interest rates in the matter of a few months, and that put a halt to buyers being ready to buy and sellers who locked in at a sub 3% interest rate, moving and being able to afford something at an 8% interest rate. That was kind of 2023. Let's get into what we think is going to happen for 2024.
To pick up where you left off between the difference of like the 08 crash and 2023 and how it was the worst year in sales, that means like if you think back to 08, 09, there's less people buying homes last year than back then, even though inventory was just a glut. There were homes everywhere, empty homes everywhere. We're not seeing a crash because inventory is so low. New listings are historically picking up with the new year, so we are seeing an uptick there, but has just been an unprecedented low number of homes for sale on the market, which when there's nothing to buy, nothing quote unquote to buy, you're not going to be seeing sales. Just like if you go to the store and there's nothing on the shelf, of course, sales are going to be down. That doesn't mean the market is crashing. On this graph here, you can see from 2015, we've been trailing down, down, down slowly over the last 8, 9, 10 years due to underbuilding. Builders are starting to catch up, but that takes time. So as soon as these interest rates start to creep down, maybe 1 or so percent as you'll get into shortly, we're gonna see that buyer demand spike again, which leads into lower days on market. You know, for example, in 2021, average days on market was 60 days, 2 months. 2023, it was down to 46. We're probably gonna see that creep closer to 30 days on market as we come into 2024, which is going to just drive sales prices up. So for example, we have the median sales price in Chicago, Cook County, at $259,900. That's 13% more than where we were last year. I'm sure you remember people saying, oh, 2022 was, the prices will never get higher. Oh, that's the peak. That was the peak. It's never going to get higher. Well, here we are. The data is in from 2023, and actually, it was not the highest year. We're up 13%. So do we see that number coming down? Absolutely not. 2024, we're poised to probably increase that by another 5 to 15% on median sales price.
Yeah, I think that you look back at the buyers who bought in 2022 who were kicking themselves for not buying at the beginning of the pandemic. I think we're going to see again buyers who are looking now or who decide to wait for the market to crash or come down are going to be kicking themselves in 2 years because inventory just isn't strong enough. There's not enough homes for sale to combat with the demand that is out there. Millennials are reaching the buying age. There's going to be the greatest transfer of wealth in history with some generations moving on and past. That's a terrible thing.
The silver generation.
The silver generation.
I've heard it called that a few times.
They're all
Can't
dying.
take credit for it. Well, they're outliving previous generations, so they're staying in their homes longer. You know, maybe our generation would typically be buying homes from our parents who have passed or for whatever reason moved out of the home that we grew up in, and then it becomes ready for a new generation. Well, that's not happening because homeowners are living longer, more independently for older ages, which means they're staying in their homes. To kick off January, for this year, it's not all doom and gloom. New listings are coming back on the market. I have a statistic here that the first week of January saw a 94% increase in inventory week over week.
That's crazy.
Just going from December to January, almost 100% increase in inventory, but it's still 9% down from where we were the year prior.
Yeah.
There are new listings coming on. There's new optimism. Rates as of today are in the
Mid to high sixes.
Mid to high sixes versus the mid to high sevens back in the end of quarter 3 of last year in 2023. And just that little blip giving buyer confidence, which means sellers are okay to go back into the market and find a new home so they can sell their home.
Yeah, I think what we're going to see with interest rates, and we'll talk more about that in a second, but as interest rates tick down, sellers are more willing to sell, like you said. There's so much pent up sales. There are so many people that didn't sell because of where interest rates were over the last 2 years, and they've got to be making those moves. They've had babies, they've had additions to the family, divorces. All of these things are happening. Life doesn't stop, and they've stopped in their home. They're outgrowing their home. They're in a position where they're trying to downsize. So
I mean, imagine you're like, oh, should I get divorced? Well, let me check interest rates.
let's check interest rates.
You know what? We're not going to get divorced yet because we're going to put our life on hold and wait for these rates to come down. That just doesn't happen.
It probably happens somewhere. I'm sure there's some people doing that. But
what I want to know is everyone who is dating the rate and marrying the home, did they break up with their rate yet?
I think probably not.
They've been dating a little longer than they thought. But we're going to start seeing more breakups with rates.
There you go.
I think this is going to be the great breakup.
Yeah.
The great rate breakup year.
A lot of mortgage refinances happening this year.
Refinances, people selling their house with that, magical unicorn rate, sub 4. They're going to break up with it. Their life happens and they're going to move.
Yeah. Getting into rates. Obviously, the news around rates is that the Fed has announced they plan to do 3 to 4 cuts of rates in 2024. Now, those rate cuts haven't started yet, but we're already seeing, just from the news of the Fed announcing rate cuts, interest rates, mortgage interest rates took a little bit of a dive from where they were just a couple months ago. So like we said, they're hovering around the mid to high sixes right now, 6.8%. A lot of people, Fannie Mae included, are predicting sub 6% interest rates before the end of 2024. I think that's a little aggressive. I think we're probably going to see interest rates creep down closer to the very low sixes.
Yeah, I would be surprised if we see anything with a 5 out front.
Yeah, I think we'll get there, but maybe not until 2025. And the reason for that being, there's just not as much movement in the job market, and I think that the job market is going to affect the Fed's decisions on how much they're going to reduce rates. We'll see exactly how many times the Fed reduces rates is still a little up in the air, but I do think they're going to come down quite a bit. We've seen an uptick in the month of January, 10% more mortgage applications. So when the interest rate came down from 7.5 to 6.8, that many more people are out applying for loans and talking with lenders, getting pre-approved.
That's because, to our earlier point, there's almost 100% more listings on the market than there were at the end of December, which means more people are putting in offers and getting pre-approvals. Which leads me to another point when you mentioned the jobs market and the rate cuts. What's happening this year in 2024? It's an election year.
It's an election year.
And that has a lot of trickle-down effects in terms of real estate, particularly because a lot of businesses make a lot of their decisions outside of election year. There's a lot on the line depending on which party is in power, and that can lead to things like a hiring surge or a hiring freeze. It could be the difference between a company relocating their headquarters this year to maybe delaying it and doing it next year once they have more certainty on what the following 4 years are going to hold. So when big businesses put a pause on some of their large decisions, it trickles down to the employees of that company who may or may not be moving, getting raises, bonuses, things that would allow them the means and opportunity to buy a house.
Yeah, and I think more directly, we're going to see a strong year for sales up until about September. And I think that reason is people are going to start to see more news come out in the election. Both parties are going to be pretty brutal with their advertisings. People are going to be very hesitant to make purchase decisions or life decisions during a time of uncertainty with whoever is going to be elected.
I mean, economics is always a huge discussion point in debates, and the housing market inevitably is woven into that conversation in either a positive or negative light as sort of an indicator of where the economy is going. I will say, I have a stat here on the housing affordability index, which has been hitting people very hard. You know, the affordability to live continues to go down. So in 2021, the historical housing affordability index was at 162. In 2023, it dropped to 114. If that number continues to fall, things like the cost of your mortgage or your rent or just the ability to house yourself continues to become unattainable for many people.
Yeah, that's essentially a good metric for inflation. Yeah,
Essentially, it's hitting the pocketbook, and it's one of the core things that is tracked in economics. If people have a hard time affording housing, it affects everything in the economy, which again leads to the election.
And you know, as any time of election year, gas prices will decrease. Inflation's going to decrease.
A lot of
They're
good
going
things
to-
for
yeah.
the party in power is really what I'm hearing.
So I think from that perspective, election's going to be in November. We're going to start hearing a huge ramp up in September. So if you're planning on selling your home this year, I think the busiest times to sell are going to be anytime between now, January, and August. I think September is going to be a pretty bad time to sell. I think September is going to be one of the lowest sale months that we have this year. Usually September is a pretty decent market for us. It's a little bit of a swing right before kids go back to school. But I think with the election, we're going to see a huge decrease in sales in September. So most of our inventory or most of the sales that happen in 2024, I think are going to happen on the front end.
So what I'm hearing is don't wait.
Don't wait to sell. If you want the best bang for your buck,
Don't wait to buy either.
well, right. Let's not put a decision like that into an election season.
People who were waiting back in 2021 and 2022, well, they're still waiting because the numbers are not going
Still waiting.
anywhere towards where they had expected. And what I tell all my clients when they say, is it the right time to buy? I say, if you found a house, if you actually found a house for sale in a neighborhood you like, that meets at least, 6 or 7 of your top 10 criteria.
Shoot, even 5.
Even 5. And you can afford it, meaning you've been pre-approved for it and you can handle the monthly mortgage payment. That is a house you should be offering on, whether it's January, February, July, because the chances of a house hitting all that criteria coming available again are far and few
Slim.
between.
Yeah, I think and that goes, I've said it before, I don't believe in the dream home, the idea of a dream home. Sure, you might find your dream home, but especially if you're first-time home buyers, I think we have to let that dream be a dream for now. I think it's, obviously buyers don't want to settle for something less than what they want, but let's reframe our expectations and find a place that we really like, that we can afford, and work towards something in the future that's maybe more ideal for you. I think holistically, 2024 is going to be a better year than 2023. I think home prices are on the rise still, mainly because inventory, even though it's increasing, cannot keep up with the demand. And I think we're going to see that trend continue over the next 4 or 5 years. And I think interest rates are going to be a huge play and something to watch out for as the year progresses.
Some people referred to last year as like a deep freeze in the housing market, which is a pretty good way of thinking of it. And we're going to start seeing that thawing out now.
I'm already seeing it thaw out.
It's going to warm up, It's chilly here, but it's going to get hot in the housing market.
That's our predictions. That's it.
So if you thinking of making a move in 2024, like, subscribe, follow along with Curtis and I in the Crotty Group. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We are always open to talk.
Yeah, have that conversation sooner rather than later. Even if you're planning on selling in the next 2 years, get a plan in place with a realtor, and we can help make sure that you're trying to sell at the best time to get the best bang for your buck. Or if you're trying to buy, trying to find the best place for you at the best price possible.
Don't listen to just the headlines. Talk to us.
That's a good point.
Especially in election year, headlines can be very misleading. So if you have any concerns, don't hesitate to reach out for the real scoop.
Like, comment, share, subscribe, rate, review.
More real talk, less TikTok. Thanks for joining in. We'll see you next time.